Happy Friday and welcome to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. I am Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. We're waiting on our guests, Chad and Brandi Chastain, having some technical difficulties. Hopefully we can get them on today and talk to them about soccer and golf and the restaurant business that they're have gotten into. And in the meantime, we'll talk about what's going on for this weekend and the week that was. I was at the Brad Paisley concert last Saturday at the amphitheater here in West Palm. It was a great show. Great to be back at concerts. A little weird with everyone and the precautions that they're taking with cashless and all digital tickets, although there were people with physical tickets. And even though it was cashless, still had the concession lady grab my credit card. So not really sure how that's any safer, but we will see. We got someone listening. Hi, Dr. Shuckler. Thanks for the support and tuning in. What are you doing this weekend? What's everyone doing this weekend? Have you gotten back into live events? We got the NBA Finals tied 2-2. What are your thoughts on the Euro Cup and the soccer? Just really a shame that it was marred afterwards with the racism and all the social media backlash. It's just a terrible thing. Olympics are coming up. No fans in the stands. How are you going to feel about watching it? It's, again, another shame for the people who worked their whole life to get to this spot and they can't have their loved ones or play in front of fans, which, if you're an athlete at the highest level, you can understand how that would be a much different experience for you. Have you seen any movies? The timing needs correction, as many all relaxing their limbs. I don't know what that means. Are you going to the movie theaters? Lots of good movies out. I heard good things about Quiet Place 2. Lots of good music out. We put that as our post today. Bare Naked Ladies with a new album. Dan and Shay with new music. Timing needs. Got it. Great show, Corey. Love seeing Corey at a concert. I don't know when we'll see again, but hopefully soon. Definitely lots more amphitheater shows coming up. So good to see you, Corey. And live music is back. How does everyone feel about that? We got a little bit of cases moving up a little bit and hoping that this new variant doesn't change anything, hoping that we don't have any more shutdowns, which would be devastating for a lot of people, restaurants and companies and people losing their jobs, especially in the entertainment world. We had Todd from Artist Rescue on the other day doing great things to help people get I guess on their feet or kind of float their way until they can get a job back. We're going to do another Open to Work Learning LinkedIn event end of the month, probably last week, I think, of this month. So stay tuned for that. And what else? What else is going on with everyone? It's another weekend. Are the weekends feeling more like weekends these days? I know back during the pandemic, everything kind of fit like it was just one long week, and it didn't matter if it was Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday. It kind of all felt the same. For me, the weekends are feeling a little bit more like weekends. We got a lot of good events coming up. Dave Matthews, which is my favorite tailgate of the year, or one of my favorite tailgates, at least on the movie music side. Headed to Scottsdale, Arizona for the bowl season annual meetings. We're a sponsor for that, and we're going to have a booth there. Looking forward to meeting all the people involved with bowl season. Nick doing a great job with the rebrand and the organization there with bowls. Should be another great bowl season. Cater Source and this special event happening at the Miami Beach Convention Center. I am going to be there as well. We're a supporter sponsor for the Connect Live event, the first night at Hard Rock in Bayside. So check us out there. Come say hi if you're there. Are you traveling for work? Are you going back to conferences? I have a few that I'm going to be at from now until the end of the year, and hopefully going to get to shake some hands and have some drinks at the bar and really network. It's much better. There's been some great networking events, and it's been great to connect with everyone on LinkedIn, but there's no substitute for the real thing. And so we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for this weekend. We got a lot of good stuff. The weather's supposed to be good here in South Florida. Hopefully it's not too hot everywhere else. And we got here, he's saying the link won't let him in. So let's see if this will happen here. Maybe because it started. We're going to see if we can't get Chad on here. This is live, baby. This is how we do it. We're going to try and see if we can get Chad on here. And we're going to try and loop in.
I see you there.
All right.
Am I here? Am I on? Am I here? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I hear you, yeah. We're sharing
let me get off the phone and try just the Zoom.
Okay. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. I don't know if they can see us. I don't even know if they can hear us, but we're here and we're going to do it. We're going to do it anyway. So here we are. Welcome to the Wolff Den. Chad, Chastain. Looks like Brandi couldn't make it today. We hope to have her on later, but Chad is just as knowledgeable about soccer. He's got a great soccer. We're going to talk about golf. We're going to talk about the restaurant business. For those who are listening and don't know, just give us a quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. I am Chad Chastain. I'm the infamous brother of Brandi Chastain, the Women's World Cup star. And I'm more commonly known as the golfer in the family. She got the soccer genes, I got the golf genes. But we've been Brandi and I have been working with Chastains Soccer Academy and doing our camps and clinics across the country for the past almost 20 years, 22 years roughly. And on top of that, we've done and moved into the restaurant business with a company called City Cheers Media, and we're a restaurant marketing firm that has developed a consumer-facing mobile app that allows merchants and patrons to connect a little bit more directly, and it's exciting. We're excited about where that company is going, and obviously we're happy that that we could be a part of an ongoing solution in that industry.
So restaurants, I mean, there's a lot of cool technology, and I don't know why it's bringing me here now, but there we go. There's a lot of cool technology with restaurants. What's the biggest feature from a restaurant point of view with City Cheers, and then also what's going to get the patrons excited about the City Cheer?
Yeah, so the app itself, which can be found on the Apple Pay or the Apple Store or at Google stores across the board, is we're a digital marketing company first and foremost, and that's going to benefit the merchant. And what that is through our Connect portal on the app, it allows merchants that have downloaded and have bought into our system, which by the way is free to all merchants. When I say they've bought into it, they've accepted to join our network. And what that allows them to do is to connect more directly with their patrons. Now, as you know, and you use a platform, the StreamYard, and with your ticket and the Wolff Den, you are able to reach through technology a number of people on different levels of whether it be sports or media or whatever else. This app gives the merchant the ability, without having to go through their traditional social media pages or email blast, to connect through the app directly in a one-to-one basis. And what that allows them to do is, for instance, Matt, if you and I were having lunch at a local pub and we had a burger and a beer and we left at 1:30 and the lunch crowd died down, there's going to be a lull between roughly 2 and 5 o'clock where restaurants and bars and other hospitality locations, find that lull. And so what we've developed is a portal for the merchant to be able to reach out to their regulars and say, hey, listen, if you come in right now, it's 2:30 or 3 o'clock. If you come in right now and mention City Cheers, we'll give you $5 off your meal, or the first round is on us. And so what we're trying to get them to offer their clientele is, either come when it's downtime, or, hey, the Monday Night Football game between the Dolphins and the 49ers is going to be on from 6 to 7. You're going to get buy one, get one free, or whatever it is. And it's just getting the outreach. And so the marketing component in a guerrilla sense is to say, how do we get more butts in seats? Yeah. And so that's what they're doing on the front end. The back end for the patron, you and I, we have a spectacularly unique opportunity to utilize the one thing that everybody uses every day, this phone, to link into directly to the POS system. And after the order is taken, they link the order back to our phone. I can see everything that they've put in their POS system right on my phone. And at the end of it, just like an Uber or a Lyft, I can tip them, rate the service, and pay without them ever having to bring a check to my table. So we're streamlining the payment side for the patron, and we're with our ROIs of upselling, turning the tables faster, getting more people to come in through the communication platform. We're giving both the patron and the merchant the opportunity to really benefit.
Yeah. What if my order is wrong?
So here's the good news: is if once it gets implemented into the POS system and it comes back to you, you see it and you go, wait a minute, I didn't order that third piece of pie. I mean, I'll have 2 pieces of pie, Matt, but I'm not doing a third. So you see it and you go, wait a minute, this is right. You flag down your server and you say, this isn't correct. Now, because we prevent the patrons from, and the protection for the merchant of any type of walkout or chargeback, which might have been, I think, the posing of the question, at the end of it, because it's e-commerce and you have to have a double click or a double approval, it's saying the merchant is protected by saying, hey, listen, I have had all those drinks, I've had all that food, I'm ready to tip and pay. It's going to ask me twice if the order is correct. So I have the ability, both as the merchant and the patron, to see what's happening and then be able to adjust it that way.
So, I mean, you'll eat the third piece of pie. You just don't want to pay for it. That's the thing.
Yeah, listen, who doesn't like a good third piece of pie?
But my question was more I just put my order in. They got it wrong. I want to make sure they got it right, not make sure at the end of the bill that they charge me for everything correctly. Both of those are important. But just if you're sending me the order, at least I can know, hey, I didn't, I wanted no cheese on that, or it's gluten-free, or something that would be able to indicate.
Sure. Yeah. It's a good question. I think there's always going to be user error and I think communication errors between patrons and merchants in any industry, frankly, right? And so that's something we can't avoid from happening. However, once they implement into the POS and it comes back to me directly, I can see it immediately and say, wait a minute, that's not what I ordered. Can you make sure that gets changed before it gets run to the kitchen or whatever? And I think that's, because we're not an ordering app, we don't have the ability to, and again, it's all something that is done verbally at a location. Partly, and we decided to go against being an ordering side because of the fact that menus change so frequently, and those types of add-ons take thousands of man hours to implement at the number of locations that we have across the board. So it's a making sure that you have a server that's paying attention to you, making sure that you are obviously being clear and concise with what your order is. And then, once it gets put in, it does jump right back to you and bridges back to your phone immediately. So you'll be able to see what they've put in. And if it's wrong, you can make that change then. Yeah.
I see a lot of that. I go to Chili's. I haven't been there in a ton of years, but they have that thing on the table where you can, pay and do all that. And they have games which you think they're free, but they're not. And you don't realize that until you click play them and your kid's already ordered, it's only 99 cents, but still they clicked it and you're like, wait a second, we're not, we don't want to pay for these games.
They played the game 35 times before you realized it.
Yeah. I also been to, a local place, and this is, I think a bunch of restaurants have it where, the wait time app where you can put yourself on. I think you guys have a component like that, correct?
Sure. Yeah. We have a wait list. So you can, from your office, your car, home, whatever, you can contact and go on the wait list and say, I'm looking to get in, and you can't set a reservation, but we can connect to any of these other third-party apps, whether it be Grubhub, Resy, all of those we connect to them through our app. But you're right, it gives you a chance to, and the functionalities across the board are really unique. And I think that's what kind of separates us from most other apps, is that we have the ability to link with theirs, but on top of it, we have the ability to utilize the marketing component for the merchant and then the payment side. But there's a cool feature that when you and I are sitting at the bar, we're watching the Gators play the Gophers, and it's late in the third quarter, and our glasses are pretty low and we can't see our bartender, we don't see our server. There's a reorder feature. So if there's something that you've already ordered one time, you can go back onto the app, click it, it either links it back to the kitchen or to the bar, runs a ticket to pour yourself another drink or get another thing of onion rings. So it's a cool, it's got a number of cool features. Job line, which is really kind of unique to the merchant. Let's say we have a location has 1,000 followers, and they can promote that they have openings for servers or for chefs, and that information gets blasted out to the people that have favorited the location. So it's a great way for them to promote new jobs and build it. And I know restaurants these days, COVID was a very difficult time for all of them, and we're very thankful that we've built a solution that can help that. It's a contactless payment side, and to really help turn the tables faster to bring more revenue through the door. But I think what's the most unique, concept for these guys is that they are able to use the merchants are able to use our ROIs to really kind of get anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 more a month, which is an exceptional amount of money when you think about it on the back end.
Yeah, you said that it's to buy in, but there's no charge for them to download the system. What's a model look like for a restaurant?
Yeah, so we provide, we bounced around ideas at the beginning of the company to charge the merchant and to give it to the patron for free. And we decided to go against charging the merchant because they're struggling as it is already. And the idea is to get it into their hands. And we followed the motto that Uber and Lyft use, where Uber's, when they first started, they didn't deploy their business until they had 10,000 drivers in their arsenal. And that was out of San Francisco and LA. And before they did that, they just weren't going to do it. And so they were offering these rides for free in these cars. And once they hit that number, then they said, okay, the patron will pay a taxi fee or whatever however that base was. And so we decided, instead of charging the merchant, we'd give it to them for free, add a marketing component to it, and then just charge the patron a 50-cent convenience fee. And because they're being charged 50 cents, they're looking for something, right? If, it's either a convenience of it, being able to have the efficiency of not having to wait for my ticket. If I want to get up and go when I want, I can go. The safety of it, never having to show my credit card, which, is the credit card fraud is a real thing in this country, and in the hospitality industry. And this protects against that. So, the 50 cent, what it does is it builds in, and we've built in a rewards and loyalty program for these patrons. And so for every 5 visits, they receive a $5 kickback. So for $2.50, they're up $2.50 on the back end with a $5 reward. So, and this is an agreement that we build in on the front side with the merchants that says, listen, you're going to give $2.50 away for every 5 visits, but for those 5 visits, you have an opportunity to upsell more, to turn your table faster. There's a plethora of reasons why they should be doing it, and to give a little bit away to gain some on the back end is really important for them to know, and they get it, and they really can see the value in it, and it makes a lot of sense. So,
how did you guys get into this? How did you find out about the company?
So the CEO, Winston Jabe, is a local Bay Area guy who Brandi knew through various soccer channels, and he was a Santa Clara graduate where we're from, and his son was a soccer player at Bellarmine College Prep in San Jose, and Brandi coached the team. And he approached her about being, I think, really more or less a liaison for the company, and maybe a face of it. And as it started to grow, probably 2.5 years ago, they started to gain a little steam, and then COVID hit. And then, so he brought Brandi and myself on, and they were really just based solely in the Bay Area, and they were doing some stuff in Dallas. And Brandi said, listen, Chicago's a great town. My brother is an outgoing guy, very easy, he likes food, he likes beer. Send him out and let him, run rampant on Chicago. But all those things are changing. I'm moving from Chicago to Minneapolis. I don't know if you got the word on that.
Yeah. No, we talked about that.
Yeah.
So congrats on the move. That was a product of your wife getting a new job, right? Coaching job?
Correct. Yeah. So she is leaving DePaul University and heading out to University of Minnesota, Golden Gophers. And she's going back to her roots. She was a player, was on the first graduating team for Minnesota. So she's going back to her alma mater, and actually her hometown. And if you can see right behind me on the wall, I've got a gift I gave to her. It's an outline of Minnesota through a board thing. But it's an exciting time for her, and she's well equipped to do it. She's had great success, not only in her coaching time at DePaul, but she coached with Brandi's husband, Jerry, at Santa Clara University, whom, by the way, just won the women's national championship, beating Florida State this past fall, or spring, I should say. And Minneapolis is a great town. We're going to her family, and I've enjoyed my time there over the years, and look forward to the move.
It's not that far too, if you need to go back and get the restaurants going. I want to get into soccer and the golf too. A few more questions on the City Cheers. I've been in sales for a long time, and it's, in your eyes, do you have to target the people who don't have anything, or is it easy to, not easy, but are you able to go in and say, let's have someone switch? Because I know with a lot of these products, whether it's restaurants or ticketing, the products are very sticky. Not because you have to do it, just because the cost and the time to change it over, there has to be some really compelling reason to switch. So you guys are national, but you're focused on national chains. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, you're right. There are enterprise companies, and you take the Micros and Aloha POS companies that are the giants in the industry, and they've been around for years and years, and their systems are getting older, and companies are moving into, and POS companies are moving into different types of platforms, and you're right, some of them can be sticky, and some of it can be expensive to change, and what I think is unique about the industry itself and where we're going, the technology space is going in the hospitality business, is that it's all become really kind of platform based, and when I say technology or platform, it's iPads and it's tablets. It's no longer these big lunky cash register type locations. So you see servers now come to the table with the tablet, and it's all done electronically that way.
Yeah.
I think what sets us apart and what's unique about City Cheers is that we're POS agnostic, and we can link into all of them. We have built relationships with all the major processing banks across the country, so we're able to link into all of them. And I think that's a really unique system for us, and that gives us an opportunity to really kind of go after the masses, and that's exciting. Obviously, we deal with restaurant chains and national chains across the board, but we also work with the mom and pops. We want this to be in every restaurant USA, and to do that, obviously, we come on shows like the Wolff Den, and we talk about it, and we get people to get excited about it. But it's a long burn, and it's something that we understand can catch fire pretty quickly. But it's getting in front of the right people, and it's making sure that everyone's educated on the safety of it, the security of it, and the ease of use and the efficiency. So,
yeah, and that was going to be my other question. Like, these restaurants can actually use City Cheers for some of the features, even if they don't use it for everything. And because of the model, it's not a problem. Like you said, it's compatible, but maybe they don't have a system for getting on a wait list, or maybe they don't have the system to just reach out to people. And it's really just a strictly POS if they've had the same system, although everyone's adding stuff. But so that's a pretty good position to be in, where you can kind of just slow your way onto it. And then as they use it, they might decide, all right, we'll use it more. And to your part, I mean, I guess they kind of don't, it doesn't matter if they use everything, right? You want them just to have it and then use what they can, and then hopefully it'll evolve to that.
Yeah, our sell to them is, how can I get you guys to, let's take one location. Let's take a location here in Chicago. We'll go to the Globe, which is a big soccer bar, and this will be a segue into soccer. It's a great soccer bar, and let's say they don't have a wait list, or let's say they don't want to build in rewards, and that functionality we've got multiple functionalities. That functionality can simply be turned off on the app, and the app still works for them to reach out. But ideally, what we're trying to say to these guys is, let us help you by the outreach and the marketing component. Get 500 people a month to come into your spot. They'll spend an average of $20 each time, and that's $10,000 a month. Now, you take that every 12 months for $120,000 of extra revenue. I can promise you right now, you won't be, you won't have your manager in there scrubbing the toilets or whatever it is, right? It's an opportunity to really kind of be compelling to the masses, not only the people that live and work in your location, but those that might be traveling across the country that want to utilize the app because it's efficient and it's safe, and it's almost a novelty. It's really kind of cool. Remember the first time you got into an Uber, Matt, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't actually have to take money out of my pocket? This is awesome. Yeah. I mean, it changed the way you share road in cars.
I'm a cash guy anyway, but yeah, I get the point. Sure. But I get that. Yes, the technology is crazy, and the COVID as we talk about this every time we talk about technology, it's pushed 10 years into a year and a half. Most of it's good. Some of it is going to be like, look, we rushed it. We really should have made sure it was good. But it's still, to offer these types of features, I think is going to be beneficial for both the venues and also the patrons. We have a lot of West Coast people here. Where can I find this if I'm in California?
The easiest thing to do is to download the app at City Cheers Media at any one of your locations where you download apps. It'll directly locate your location, or it'll GPS your location, and it'll show you anything that's within, and you can change the settings to verify where you want to look. But we launched it not long ago, and we're growing every day, and we're up in Northern California. We're in some locations in Southern California. But ideally, the best way to find us is just to download the app, and once you find a location, get in there and use it.
It's funny, like the average person, and me maybe included, doesn't understand what Northern and Southern California like, I know San Diego is south, right? And I know Sacramento is north. San Francisco, Los Angeles, all that. You're kind of like, it's a gray area for the people who don't live in California.
Well, it's funny you bring it up, because those that are from Northern California, myself is included, don't not necessarily like Southern California people, but it's a different breed of person. It's, Southern Cal is warm and sunny. Northern Cal, San Francisco was cool and cloudy, and it's a more laid back vibe. And, they're different people, but it's always been the Northern and Southern kind of conversation.
Yeah. I dated someone who lived in Folsom, which is a really cool little area north of Sacramento. So recommend it for anyone who's up in that area. So let's talk a little bit about soccer. You've had a great history in soccer. Your wife, soccer coach, doing great things. Obviously, being the head coach of Minnesota. Your sister, I think most people know about her husband, soccer. So it's a family affair. But it's interesting. We had Ray Leonard Jr. on. He was a football player and track player. His dad was a boxer. We had Dan Cross, who's a Gator basketball great. His son's a football player. You see some of these in the pros, like I forget. I think was it Shaq's son was a football player, and so it's interesting. How is soccer ingrained in you guys from the start, and how did it come to just be that's what you guys did?
Yeah, sure. We grew up in Northern California, and in a neighborhood where, in a time, early '70s, when soccer wasn't big in our country. It was mostly a foreign game, and we had a neighbor that was from Central America that lived in our neighborhood, and they had children that similar ages to Brandi and I, and we connected, one summer early on, and went down to the park, and the father put a soccer ball out in front of us, and we all kicked it around, and, had no idea what we were doing. And we fell in love with it, brought it home, and said to our parents, hey, we'd like to play soccer. Can we play in a soccer league? And there wasn't one. Just wasn't available then. And, or if it was, few and far between. And so my father, and some locals, got us together and put some teams together, and we were off and running. And my dad coached both Brandi and I as we grew up, coached me through high school, and coached Brandi's club teams as she was a youth, and was really inspirational to us, because we all kind of learned it as a family together. He had to go to the library to learn the rules. He had to get books on it to learn the rules on what it was. And these days, obviously, as you know, and you see in sports all the time, is it's everything really is now in front of you. There's these leagues and these clubs, and these are just massive businesses. And back then it was pure joy, and there wasn't money to be made. And so it was a little different then, but and I think that partly is why there was the passion to it, as opposed to seeing some sort of silver lining in it. And we grew up loving it. We grew up. It's given us both our livelihood. Like you said, I met my wife, who is in soccer, and Brandi's husband, who coaches collegiately as well. And obviously, we all know what it did for Brandi's career. So I think there's a lot of great life lessons learned in sport, and soccer gave us community. It gave us, you had to learn all sorts of great life lessons, and I've tried to take as many of those as I've learned over the years, and parallel them into my business and relationship type of.
Is discipline the most important? Because everyone has their thing in soccer, and in soccer, if you miss, the game could be over, right? There's so many 1-0 games, 2-1 games. You're in the wrong spot, and it happens. You do something wrong in basketball, you have time. Something in football, you have time. Baseball, almost any other sport, it's like, soccer it's a game of inches. And
it's a great point, because we and I have coached and taught for many, many years, and we like to always say that the training ground is always the hardest game you'll ever play, because For me, it didn't come as easily as it did for Brandi. And so I knew that if I didn't put in all the effort in the training ground, I wouldn't see time. But you're right. If what was the old Lombardi statement? It's not, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
So you repetition and being able to fall down and understand that you got to get back up to do it again. So you're right, though. It's a game of strategy. It's a game of skill, but it's a patience man's game. You have to be able to understand breaking down the opposition. And, you do that in football, right? You run the ball 5 times in a row to draw your linebackers and your defensive backs up so that you can get behind them.
Right.
Throw it over the top. So it's, or you pitch, you throw the guy the change up 3 times and then you bring the heat. So it's similar concepts, but it's you're right. It's the lining is very thin in soccer, and you either are on the good end of it or sometimes you're on the bad end.
You played in college, right? And then also some professional soccer too, right?
Yeah. Out in the West Coast, I went to a school called Foothill College, and from there went and played with Salt Lake City, a little bit with the Portland team in San Jose. Not at the extent of the MLS. That was a league that hadn't really been developed yet, but the game was still growing at that time in the late '80s, and our national program was I think really starting to develop. The first Women's World Cup wasn't played until 1991, and so the game has come a long way over the last 35 years since I really kind of was a player that in any type of meaningful game. But I love where we've come as a nation in the game, and obviously the women's game has really evolved quickly. But you just recently the European Championships were just played, and Italy beat England in the final in a shootout, and but I think with the coverage of the media that they've provided for our country to see overseas games and to really kind of get to know the game has really helped it grow here. In fact, in women's college, it's the #1 sport in all of NC2A, not just by volume of participation, but there are more women's soccer teams than any other NC2A sport. So, it's being played more now than it ever has, and I think it's growing in a nice rate and in a good direction.
Yeah, we a couple things there. The Gators don't have a men's. That's a Title IX thing, right? It's so sure. You gotta. But our women's team is very good, doing well. I wanted to get your thoughts on the Euro Cup. It was I mentioned at the beginning. It's just a real shame of the backlash on Twitter and in the media, and that these players had to endure. I'm not a soccer expert. It felt like they were trying to get too cute at the end on the penalty shot and kind of just, got in their own head on it. But it's great to see. I mean, it was a lot of attention, as you mentioned, and some great soccer being played. Nothing bad. It's like you go to penalty shots for the championship. That's like, shootout or overtime Stanley Cup hockey. It's just right. All eyes on the tube and trying to figure out what's going to happen.
It's a shame that it didn't end in regulation or on the field with the run of play. But the governing bodies many years ago decided that the fatigue of the amount of running that these athletes do, that you risk injury if you play. If it continues to go on and on. Hockey, obviously, the shifts are short and sweet, and it's less.
Someone's going to score. Someone's going to score in hockey. You don't know about soccer.
Right. So this gives a finality to it, which sometimes is ruthless, and sometimes the better team does not win. However, you mentioned the scrutiny some of these players felt on Twitter, and it's not warranted. These guys are out there giving everything for their countries, and when you wear the badge on your chest, it's the ultimate. You give up, really, I think, the ultimate sacrifice in that you're putting yourself out there if you do make a mistake for people for there to be backlash, which is sad. But, because I can tell you right now, if any one of those 3 guys that missed for England were to score the game winner in regulation,
they'd be heroes.
They'd build a statue out to him. So, it's a fine line, but it was a well played tournament by all the teams, and what a great run by Denmark after Christian Eriksen sadly fell ill on the field, and the nation really came together. So that was a great story. Obviously, the semifinal and final being played at Wembley Stadium, in England having a chance to bring it home. But Italy, I think at the end we're a team worthy of hoisting the championship and the cup, and always play a very good and defensive-minded strategy in form of soccer, and I was glued to the television for all of the games, and we're excited that the World Cup is coming up again, and we got the Olympics coming up in less than a month, and it's just been a great. Ironically enough,
there's always soccer. Soccer is always on.
Yeah, it's always on, and the English Premier kicks off in 3 weeks, and so it's like it's back on again. So it's the year of soccer, we'll call it.
And there was a championships on Saturday too with who won in South America.
So Argentina finally with Leo Messi beat Brazil.
Yeah,
they beat them in Rio de Janeiro 1-0 on a great goal, and it was Leo Messi's first major trophy for his country, and he was scrutinized for years for not having brought anything home, considering everyone, or he's arguably one of the top 2 or 3 players that have ever played. So for him to finally get that done for his country was a big deal.
He was also in my previous job in the database that I was in charge of selling for not paying his taxes. But
hey, listen,
what are you gonna do? Sometimes when if you only get the $100 million contract, right, you gotta give the guy a break for a second. Well, that's with all this soccer going on. You and I talked about this. We actually met at the Win Again Academy events with Mark Moyer, and we've talked about why isn't soccer more popular, and why aren't we better at it? Not more popular. Everyone's playing soccer. My nieces and nephews are playing. We played. Everyone plays soccer, and yet the men seem to not be able to get to the level. I know it's just a little frustrating, sort of like men's tennis almost too, because you got women's tennis in the U.S. They're putting out some really great players, the Williams sisters, and we got Coco Gauff and forget the other one, but she's climbing up the ranks. And the men are kind of like lagging behind. Is there too many options for other things to play sports? Is it not as glamorous? Is it because they watch the people in the pros, and is it the flopping that people don't like, the low scoring? What do you attribute to some of the reasons why we're not as good?
Yeah, I think you can argue a lot of those points that you just brought up. And one thing I will say is that our grassroots programs have really just begun to really, I think, start to thrive. You mentioned it. There are more youth soccer players in our country than all other youth sports combined.
Yeah.
So think about the volume of participation, which obviously I think leads into why there are 335 NC2A women's Division I teams. So you're right. There's a lot of participation. We don't necessarily have the means to provide the greatest coaching potentially. There's, I think, a lot, like you mentioned, a lot of other opportunities for these kids to do. They see the bright lights and the big contracts in baseball, basketball, football, and they may just not be taking that. Now, I will say that if could you imagine having Michael Jordan on the wing and LeBron James as goalkeeper and Kobe Bryant running down as a center forward, and it just these guys running at you at pace. I mean, it would be amazing, right? But again, I think that it's super infantile at this stage for our men's program. We are increasing and getting better. Finally, our top players are being recognized in the top foreign leagues and are having success there. Pulisic, out at Chelsea, and a number of these players that play with these big clubs are doing well, and it is starting to, I think, pay dividends. You'll see the Gold Cup right now, which is currently going on, which is CONCACAF, which is our governing our nation's governing body, is happening right now. And we just had a big win last night, 6-1 over a country that is very small and is not a soccer nation. But I think when it comes down to it, the game is still young here, Matt. And I think that eventually we will catch up, and the amount of funds that get poured into it here in the States will start to help that change.
Yeah, I think there's, I'm obviously biased to the U.S. I think we have some of the greatest athletes in the world. For us, in my opinion, again, not a soccer expert by any means, just disappointing to see that the men's not qualifying, whether it's the Olympics or the World Cup. You just say, look, I'm not expecting you to win, but we need to get to the point where we're there, and that's not even a choice. Will we win a World Cup men's in our lifetime?
I certainly hope so. I am 50 years old. I hope to live another 50 years. But if I don't, I would love to see it happen before I go. But I think we're trending in the right direction. And you bring up the fact that we didn't qualify in the last World Cup. Part of the qualification process for us, and we have a very simple group to get through. But in qualifying, you don't have to have the same team that's playing in your qualifying games that will play in the tournament. So what we've not done in the past, and part of that is these large professional clubs across the globe are paying their athletes such a large amount of money that sometimes they're not releasing them to go play with their national teams. And I'm not saying that was the reason why we didn't have our best.
No, soccer is a different animal with the national teams and how many different leagues and you're playing and crossing over. So it's definitely a factor. Last thing about the U.S. soccer, the coach is always scrutinized. I mean, your wife is a coach. You coached. Brandi's husband's a coach. How important is the coach? He can't take all the blame. At the end of the day, the people on the field have to perform. Now he's the one putting the people on the field. So if he makes a roster judgment error, you can understand that. But a lot of that's hindsight.
Sure. I think the coach is really meant to be, and you find this, I think, oftentimes in the best coaches and the teams that are performing at the highest level, there isn't a ton of coaching going on during the game. And that's left in for the training grounds and making sure your athletes are prepared properly, making sure that they understand situational play, making sure that they are individually ready to go, and all that stuff I think is attributed to a coach being prepared. Now, I think there are adjustments that coaches have to make during games, and I think that is a big part of the result. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the players at a professional level or a collegiate level really, I think, kind of dictate typically the outcome. Now, I will say that in my brief high-level coaching career, I've made some questionable calls, and it's resulted in making and turning into, sadly, taking a goal and losing the match. But I think that it's you take, for instance, the scrutiny that the English coach just took for having 3 players that he subbed on very, very late in the game, and those 3 players were the 3 that missed the penalty kicks. And I think the argument is, well, either pick players that were into the game, that had played, that had kind of built themselves into the game before, but these other players are professionals, and their job is to put it away. And I think you might have hit the nail on the head. When I was a player, when I took a penalty, I wasn't leaving any of it to chance. And for me, it was stepping up and putting pace behind the ball and making sure that it got in, right? And don't let the goalkeeper's guessing game be a factor for you. Even if they guess the right way, if I hit it hard enough, high enough, and with enough pace into the corner, it's going to get by him. So it's a hard thing as a coach, and you feel helpless once the whistle's first blown, because outside of making adjustments, you can't help the guys. You can't pass it for them. Yeah. You can't make that run or defend. So it's a double-edged sword, sadly.
Yeah, and that could be your advantage. You get to put fresh legs in there. It's not like you're shooting basketball and you have to be hot. Like these people aren't kicking a ton of shots at the goal all game. So, that's a tough, it's a tough thing to go for. Let's talk a little bit about golf. You're a avid golfer. Last time we talked, you had played the Michael Jordan course. You also had, and I wasn't able to find, did you complete the 50 golf challenge, or you did part of it, or it's been
years
postponed?
and years ago. There wasn't a ton of media on it. A friend of mine, Mike Silver, did a piece for Sports Illustrated online, but I did to raise money for a charity that our family was helping out back in the day. We had a friend that dealt with cancer as a child, and so the Children's Cancer Research Fund, that was based in Los Angeles, supported a tour that I did where I played a round of golf in all 50 states in 50 consecutive days, and that was back in 2003. And super unique. I had a good friend that recently wanted to put it together for me again, and we were very close. And my wife, in funding, I'll say it was funding that put the kibosh on it, but it's difficult to be away from the family for 2 months to do something. But golf is, I think, has been something that my family, with Brandi and I, have really kind of grown into, and we really, really enjoy doing.
Yeah, we like to talk about bucket lists on the Wolff Den. Do you have a favorite course you've played and a bucket list course you haven't played that you would love to?
On the tour and growing up in Northern California, Pebble Beach wasn't far from where we lived, and that was my California course at the time, and it was the lure of the course and its aura and its history that really, I think, which is what makes it iconic and so great. It's not the best golf course I've ever played. It's a municipal, to be frank. It's a very good golf course, mind you, but I've played courses that are far more manicured, that are far more difficult. But Pebble is so iconic, and it sits on part of our California coastal that's some of the most beautiful land in the country. But a course I'd like to play that I've not played, I would really like to play, obviously, Augusta. I think that's on all golfers' bucket lists. Yeah. But
that's a bucket list to attend also.
Yes, for sure. And I've not done that either, but that's I think the highest ranking golf course bucket list for me. So
yeah, I played Stone Mountain. Have you ever played Stone Mountain? Beautiful course in Atlanta, and you're just like on a cliff, and you got to hit it over. I mean, it wasn't great for me because I play like 2 times a year. I'm pretty good for someone who plays 2 times a year, but it was just it's a beautiful scene in the mountains, and you're hitting it over the stuff, and you got to hit it into this little area. The fairway is a little area, and the trees are there, and then the hills are so steep that you're like, I was afraid driving down on the golf cart. That's how steep these hills were. So I definitely recommend Stone Mountain, of course, if you're ever in the Georgia area. How about bucket list for events? Obviously, the Masters you mentioned. Were you able to see Brandi play in the World Cup or Olympics?
Oh yeah, so I've been to plenty of those, and they're always great to go watch. I can vividly remember July 10th, 1999, walking from where we tailgated up to Pasadena into the Rose Bowl for the final against China in the '99 World Cup, and just the fans and just the buildup of what a great summer it was for the women's team, and how much steam it had gained, and how it became a real national story. And when Brandi and the team went to overtime, I knew that Brandi was their designated penalty kick taker in the run of play. So if the U.S. were fouled in the opposition's box, Brandi was always the designated taker. And earlier in the year, they were playing Portugal playing in Portugal at the Algarve Cup against the same Chinese team in the final. And there was a penalty kick in the game, and the goalkeeper from China walked up to Brandi as Brandi was putting the ball down, put it down, and looked up, and the Chinese goalkeeper was standing right in front of her face, and Brandi was thrown for a loop. And she missed the shot, and China ended up winning the game. And fast forward to the penalty kick shootout against China, and some of the coaching staff for the U.S. team asked Brandi, "Hey, are you hoping to, or would you be comfortable taking a kick?" And she's like, "Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of been my role. I certainly hope that I am still part of that process." And Mia Hamm, obviously, and Michelle Akers, who are two of our all-time greats for our country. Michelle, sadly, at the end of the game, went out with an injury. She suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome over the years, and wasn't able to participate late in the game and missed the penalty kicks. And so Tony DeCicco, sadly, who's passed away, was the coach at the time, and he asked me, and he said, "Mia, you got to take a kick." She's like, I cannot do this. I'm not. And you arguably, and he said, I cannot arguably have the world's greatest women's soccer player and goal scorer in the history of the game not taking a penalty kick in the World Cup final. You're taking a kick. And so it was one of those events where, everything, it was a great event, and obviously history was written that day. But there are a lot of events I hope to go to. I've been to many Super Bowls. I've been to a lot of the World Series games.
Anything that stands out that you haven't been aside from the Masters?
I'd like to go to. I've become a tennis fan, and my wife and I watch a lot of tennis. And the Wimbledon just finished up, and Djokovic, as everyone knows, has now won 3 majors in a row. If he wins the U.S. Open later this summer, he will do something only one other person has ever done, and two other people. But it's amazing to think that you have 3 guys that all now have 20 majors. So tennis is a big deal. So my wife loves Rafael Nadal, so she wants to go to the French Open. I've always been a Federer and Djokovic fan, so I want to go to Wimbledon. So eventually we'll attend a tennis event somewhere.
My sister's huge tennis fan. Has been to, like, not this last one because of COVID, but the last 3 French Opens before that. Goes to the U.S. Open every year. She loves it. Let's give us a Mount Rushmore of. Let's do women's soccer because it's what more people know about. Give me the Mount Rushmore of women's soccer.
Wow, that's.
And we'll give a fit. I don't know if you're going to put Brandi on there, but we'll put her on there. So give us 4 others. So you don't have to, whether you would or not. We'll take it out of the equation. Give us 4.
Brandi is. I'll say this about Brandi. Brandi is one of very few athletes at any sport that was able to transform from a high-level attacking player, where she played her entire career, took an ACL injury midway through her national team career, missed the next World Cup or missed an Olympics, one of the two, was brought back on after the 95 World Cup, was brought back on, but they had recently signed a number of young collegiate superstar forwards, Mia Hamm included, and Brandi was no longer asked to be on the team as a forward. So she said, I don't care where I play. I just want to make the team.
Yeah.
And they turned her into her left back. And from that time forward, I think she was on what's called the all world 11, which is the best 11 players, one from every position. And she won that, I think, 7 out of 11 times as a left back. Yeah. So you can't argue that. That's pretty spectacular. So we'll put Brandi on there for the sake of me receiving a phone call from her down the road. But you obviously have to have Mia Hamm, who is, maybe the greatest player the world has ever seen, outside of potentially maybe Michelle Akers, who was the third.
Abby Wambach?
Abby, I think Abby, and Abby might be brought up from you because she was a Gator, but but Abby was great. There's no doubt. Abby is now the all-time leading scorer. But I think she came at a time where the game, I think there's a couple other players I would put on before Abby. Abby's certainly a second forward, but potentially Cece, who is Brazilian, who's played, I think, in 5 World Cups and is arguably the best player in the field every time she plays. So
that kind of sport to play 4 or 5 World Cups at all of them is incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. So
it's a pretty good list. We'll that's we won't make you put any more on there or any more decisions. We're going to let you edit here on the same question we let everyone go with. You can pick one person to spend a day with. They have to be living. You can't be related to them or really know them, because I'm going to do some outreach to try and make it happen. Who's the one person you're picking, and what are you guys doing? It could be anyone in the world. Who do you got?
Boy, that's a great question. Since we don't have too much time, I'm a huge proponent of family, and I sadly don't live near my family. My parents, Brandi and I's parents, sadly passed away almost 20 years ago. And Brandi and I are the only two in our family, and so it's probably going to be Brandi. I mean, I
know we got to have someone who's not related, because you can spend with her.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can spend any time you want with her, right? Technically.
You know what? Because of soccer, I got good at other sports. In fact, people ask me how I got decent at golf. I'm a 2 handicap. They say, well, how did you get good at golf? The golf swing and kicking the soccer ball, the physics are very similar. So I've played golf with Jordan. I've played with Tiger. I've met a lot of the greats. I'm a Chicago guy now. Maybe it's spending the day either playing golf or maybe catching a basketball game with Barack Obama. Okay. I think just what he was able to overcome in his life to become the world leader and just being a difference maker and just being able to break all barriers is super fantastic.
He just seems like a cool guy. I mean, I say this, you're not the first to put Obama. Like, he gets on the court, takes one shot, walks off. He's given, song lists and book lists, and everyone. He's just a cool guy. I think to hang out with him would be. I don't think he plays a lot of golf, right? I mean, not as much as the average person.
Yeah, I think spending the day with him and picking his brain. Ironically enough, he has friends that are mutual friends of ours. When he was living in Chicago and working in Chicago and was living here prior to becoming the president. They lived in the down by the University of Chicago, where friends of ours that are soccer coaches were friends with them, and so I've heard they've stayed at Camp David, they've stayed in the White House, and have spent time with him. And the conversations I've had with them are that he's very nice, down to earth, very real, and you see some of the presidents in the past that are just not that, and it would be unique, even if you sit on a different side of the aisle. I think he just, with what he was able to do and overcome to become the president is pretty special. Yeah,
he'd be fun to hang out with. We're gonna try. We gotta get Ticket Time Machine going. So we're a lot more have a much bigger platform in the Wolff Den. But it's on the list. He's already on the list. You're added to the list of that party we're gonna have with Barack Obama. Really appreciate your time today. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning. Send our regards to Brandi. Love to have her on and talk about all the great stuff she's doing with women's sports, and so much more to talk about, sure. Even off of the soccer field. You guys are doing great things, and look forward to seeing what's next, and look forward to being at a restaurant and using City Cheers. So check out citycheersmedia.com. As Chad said, you can download the app anywhere. You can download apps, right, on iOS and all of that good stuff. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Connect with Chad. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Be smart. We got another great round of guests next week on the Wolff Den. And until then, have a great night.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.